How's everybody today?
Well, how are you?
Love the weather, huh?
We brought it back from Seattle.
Okay.
So, Al, you were here, obviously, the previous 2 years, knew Steve. What went into, what role did you potentially play in him coming here?
Steve's an outstanding defensive coach, and when we had some turnover on the staff, I just, approached Coach Rule and just gave him a recommendation. Basically, obviously thought very highly of Steve. Knew he would do a fantastic job coaching the defensive backs and helping our defense and helping our team overall. So, Steve's reputation speaks for itself. And, when he came in and Matt, gave him the opportunity to come in and interview, he was impressive, and Matt saw the same things that I had known about Steve.
So basically, this is all your fault. How have you guys? How has this operation kind of come together over the last 8 weeks, differently maybe than it did in Arizona when you had all the prep time?
Yeah, I believe that, Steve's overall leadership and his message and his consistency with the team has been the key element. He's very well liked, throughout the organization and in the locker room in particular, and the coaching staff. He's, just detailed, organized, and really, not to get into really what happened out in the desert, but, his philosophy and approach was exactly the same, and it just didn't work out.
Alan, Jaycee's pick, how much of that was instinctual, and what did you see kind of from him being able to track down the ball the way he did?
Did a great job on the play. It was a high-low concept, a sprint out going to the flat, and initially he started to kind of, what I thought, bait the quarterback into thinking he was jumping the flat, and then he fell off, stayed visual on the quarterback, and felt the 7 route behind him and made that play. So to answer your question, a lot of it is instincts. He does a phenomenal job of really studying his craft and his work. He's constantly watching film in the meetings, outside the building. And when he comes in here on a Wednesday, he's already probably watched a few games on his own, and he already can tell you the splits and what everyone's doing. So he's a student of the game, and as his technique continues to improve, we look for him to make more and more plays.
Did you talk to him on the sidelines after that play?
I did.
What did you say?
I did. Well, initially, because he baited the quarterback, I just wanted him to have awareness of that the corner route was coming behind him. And he's, and he was like, yeah, I got it, I saw it. But, he had some underneath presence from the backers, which kind of, he felt those, and then he fell off into the window and got the pick. So I was excited for him, though.
Now, there was much made in the pre-draft process about Kenny Pickett's hand size. Will you, or have you kind of reminded your guys that he could be prone to fumbles, given that?
Not particularly in correlation to his hand size. Every week, Joe, we try to emphasize getting the ball out in terms of fumbles. In the National Football League, really the position that turns the ball over the most is the quarterback position when you look at the numbers overall. So that's just a point of emphasis regardless of hand size or anything like that when we're playing against quarterbacks.
Have you seen on film and teams sort of making even more of a concerted effort trying to do that against him?
I can't really say that I have. I think most defenses try to incorporate the same philosophy as we do in terms of just trying to get the ball out if we have an opportunity to get to the quarterback.
Going back to Jaycee real quick, he allowed only 3 catches for 49 yards against DK Metcalf, according to, I think it was Next Gen Stats. DK came in averaging 97 yards in his last 3 games. Just your takeaway from Jaycee's performance on Sunday?
I thought he did a nice job. He accepted the challenge early in the week. explained to him what the matchups were, really went into great detail in terms of his film study and some of the tendencies that we saw together and shared together in terms of his route running tree, his body language, his demeanor, some of those things. So I think that gave him a little bit of a tip. And then he had really, good vision, good technique, and made some excellent breaks on the ball. And I'll just go back. The one other thing that I did say to him when he came to the sideline is, how did you trip on the turf? Like, how could you have not scored? Because there was no one. He would have scored a touchdown. So that's the other thing I said to him.
And now pivoting to George Pickens, Gavin Johnson,
Yeah.
similar talent in that receiving room in Pittsburgh. Is it as easy as sliding Jaycee over to Pickens now, or what does that look like for this week?
No, well, you guys know I'm not going to tell you exactly what we're doing. Two outstanding receivers. One's a little bit bigger guy, just like last week. So there is some similarities, but there's also a lot of differences as well. So we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Alex, is there a ceiling on how often you can push that button of Jaycee, that guy, go get him, and keep a guy locked on one guy?
Not necessarily. I think a lot of it goes into what the call is. Whether we're playing what type of concept, a man, a zone concept, a pressure concept. So all of those things, globally, are what goes into how we game plan, and then in terms of how we're going to match up to different different bodies, different receivers, different tight ends, things of that nature.
Why has Frankie been so successful as a fifth rusher?
When he came out of Washington State, initially, when he was in New York, he was an edge guy. He also played off the ball, though. And his comfort level initially when we got him was playing on the line of scrimmage, rushing the passer, setting the edge, on the defense. And then as the season goes on, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, like, guys have to be multiple positional players. And really his transition from being just a totally on-the-ball backer to an off-the-ball backer and then back to an on-the-ball backer, he's embraced that role. He's embraced that role. In fact, when you go back to OTAs and training camp, he was one of the guys who we lined up inside at Mike linebacker, giving him a bunch of reps. Just cross-training guys constantly, just so they really get a great feel for the overall defense. Because in my scheme of thinking, if you understand different parts of the defense, it'll make you a more complete player, and that's what Frankie's starting to evolve into. So from a pass rush, standpoint, just Frankie, just as an overall player, has a tenacity and a willingness to get to the football each and every play. So I think that just his mindset in terms of attacking the football is what makes Frankie special.
Now, from that standpoint, did your time with Hassan in Arizona kind of change the way you think about that, and kind of factor into the way you approached him?
Yeah, because Haas was similar, drafted as an off-the-ball backer, but converted back, coming out of college to an on-the-ball backer, and then as you start to shape a defense, you start to look at your players and say, okay, what are their strengths, and what do they do really well? So when you look at a player like Frankie, you say, okay, well, one of his strengths is setting the edge, rushing the passer, but hey, he can also play off the ball, and his progression, his recognition is good. He does a nice job in coverage for us, understanding route concepts and things of that nature. So I think as you build the defense, you just start to shape it with the pieces you have, and then try to accentuate and play to those guys' strengths.
Could you kind of see some of that potential last year? I know he had limited opportunities,
Yeah.
but I mean, there was a lot of pressure, like just from the outside in, that you guys would add another pass rusher to replace us on, and you guys, I think even Matt at one point said that you had confidence that Frankie could step into that role.
Yeah, we did, and again, when I think about kind of the evolution of Frankie Luvu, I go back to, I think maybe the first Atlanta game last year was really one of the first times he played off the ball, and did a nice job, and fit the gaps and did all those kind of things. But we always felt as a defensive staff that Frankie could get us out of a pinch, so to speak, if we got into a situation where we needed an extra rusher. But that's and he you know, he loves to do that. He loves to rush and game it up and do some different things there.
Now, you've been on the wrong side of the ball, and you can't stop the run. I guess Cincinnati a little bit.
Yeah.
When you watch, I don't know how much you paid attention Sunday when, you know, Seattle couldn't stop you guys' run game. What's that like, though, for a defense and for a team when that happens?
It's, you know, I think you guys have heard this before, it's demoralizing because when they can control the line of scrimmage, and as a play caller, from a defensive standpoint, if you're giving up 4, 5, 6 yards a clip, it really puts you at a disadvantage in terms of play calling. So now it's 2nd and 4, you know, which, you know, you can look at it, they could throw the ball, they could run the ball. So it really limits in terms of, you know, it kind of keeps you guessing a little bit as a play caller. But overall, it's demoralizing. You know, it's not a good feeling. Obviously, you know, the goal is to get them in the 2nd and long, and then keep them there so you can get them in the 3rd and long. So, you know, that's the number one thing that our focus is, and that we start with every single week is we got to stop the run.
Has Tomlin had any impact on your career?
Not in particular. We've met a few times, spoken, but nothing in particular.
Al, how would you describe the differences in the way Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky quarterback?
I think their offense is their offense. 2 mobile quarterbacks, you know, 2 guys that understand the offense, can throw the football. So when you go back and you look at the body of work throughout the season, you're seeing the same concepts when Mitch was in the game earlier on in the season to what you see, you know, last week. So not much difference. It's their offense that we're facing.
And what does the tight end do for that offense?
He's big. I think he's 2nd in receptions. He has really nice hands. He runs really, you know, good routes. He's detailed with his routes. He's a good blocker, and you know, he gets open. You know, he at the top end of the route, he can stick you, and he can beat DBs or backers.
You're all good.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.